T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, y'all? Happy Friday. Welcome to a WWT Live Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. If you feel like I'm sounding sick, yes, I have a whole bunch of bags of cough drops, which I've been going through like candy. But yeah, here we are. Thank you, WrestleMania. But I'm not alone. Mr. Professor, what's going on? What's going on?
I am not laughing at your pain, but the thank you WrestleMania just took me out of here. Oh my gosh. Happy Friday. Good Friday, everybody.
Happy Good Friday.
Yes, indeed.
Man, I feel like such a bad church girl. My boss is like, what are you doing for Easter? I was like, when's Easter? Because the last couple weekends I've been working, so I missed my church services. And
Sure.
This weekend I was like, well, I hope I'm gonna be sleeping, but turns out I have a pop-up, so I'll be working. But happy Good Friday, y'all. And we are not alone. He's back. We didn't scare him away, but he hasn't experienced it yet. So we'll have to see. Cedric, what's up? What's up? How are you doing?
I'm good. Happy Friday, y'all. Good to see y'all again. And ditto on the thank you WrestleMania. I've been a little choked up this week too. You know, stadium got kind of cold on night 2.
Wow.
There's that. I think what's JC? This is what can happen when you
Wow. What is that about? Oh boy.
JD, you don't know my life. But
boy.
a few people are sick, and I just think that there was a lot of people beyond the events outside of WrestleMania. There's just a lot of people, and I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but maybe our immune system wasn't used to because I was hugging babies and pictures and all things, and I'm not that type of person. So my immune system's like, girl, you went 0 to 100 in a lot. So I don't know, but thankfully I can work, so I'm not bedridden. So how are you feeling, Cedric?
I'm good. I mean, I'm a little stuffy, but I don't think it was because of WrestleMania. I've been dealing with some other stuff, but I mean, it doesn't stop me from moving. But like you said, on a day-to-day, I'm in the house, so interacting with that many people at one time, pretty much a shock to the system. But you're talking about 80K in one building, you sit in this building for 6 hours. It's natural. It's natural to take an L on that.
But we see you in the pink. We see you in the pink though.
True crew.
All right.
Wendy out here.
All right, you know what? Did I download all the videos? I sure did not. I got stuck in talking to
That's
story.
funny.
I didn't download all the videos. So let's get one of the videos up so we can actually transition properly with our first story.
Up rope.
What do we got?
All right. So there's been a lot of controversy, obviously, in the last week. If you've been under a rock and you don't know what's been going on, let's see. WWE was sold to Endeavor. There are rumors that Vince did Raw, even though we're not sure that he did, and all other sorts of wonderful things. But when it comes to this sale to Endeavor, it has been leaked, and I put that in quotes because I don't know who's doing this leaking these days. The actual letter that Vince McMahon sent to WWE employees about this sale. So I could read all of it to you, but the parts you're probably the most concerned about is this part. And that is he's talking about who will be in what roles relative to WWE and how indeed WWE and UFC will function. So ironically, he says something that I told us on Monday, but it's worth hearing from him. He says, quote, as far as how this impacts you, and he's talking to WWE employees, following the close of the transaction, which is expected to be later this year, we expect to continue to operate largely as we do now. Both WWE and UFC will become wholly owned subsidiaries of the new company, but retain our separate brands, as well as our leadership teams and headquarters. I, being Vince McMahon, will serve as executive chairman of the board, while Ari Emanuel will become the CEO of the new company and remain CEO of Endeavor. Mark Shapiro will become president of the new company and retain his role as president of Endeavor. Nick Khan will serve as WWE president. Dana White will continue his role as UFC president. And the one line everybody wants to hear, Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, will remain WWE's chief content executive. He goes on to say, as of now, we expect the transition to conclude later this year. In the meantime, it is business as usual here, and this news has no immediate impact on your day-to-day roles or responsibilities. That's the letter that Vince McMahon sent out to WWE employees on Monday. And so this is also, to some degree, clouding what we saw on Monday night, because Monday night certainly did not feel like business as usual. But it is also a reminder of what he said, that indeed Triple H will be in charge still of creative. Now, everybody's wondering, what on earth does this mean tonight, since Triple H has been announced to be starting off SmackDown with another announcement. We'll only be able to see, like, I couldn't tell you what could possibly be said, though in my own mind, if Triple H comes out and says, hey guys, we heard you, Raw was crazy, we're back, we're good, and then the show follows that, everybody will be all right. But I think it's interesting to hear what the plan was from Vince McMahon, that indeed it is business as usual in the WWE. The brand of WWE will remain the same. Headquarters are still in the same spaces. Business teams still are who they are, and that's what that looks like.
I mean, I don't want to say people sometimes don't tell the truth, but how many times have you read a situation, dude, just take the wrestling out of it and just take business, right? Mm-hmm. How many times has, something new has happened and they're like, don't worry, your job's safe. And then they just do a massive cut like a couple months later. And then, and I've said this before, much respect to Vince for bringing WWE to what it is now, but he's done questionable things. And in the vein of business, sometimes you have to do unorthodox things to make things work. It might not make sense to the person who's watching television or the person working for the company, but there might be some other things in the background that we don't necessarily see. So that doesn't come from me at all. I feel like in the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to see some things shift, and I'd be surprised if what is happening where we are right now is exactly where we'll be by SummerSlam, as far as the key players and all the things. I would be surprised.
It'll be interesting. Go ahead, Cedric.
I think we got to come to the realization that we are dealing with like the creme de la creme of liars in the WWE. I remember there was a video that went out before WrestleMania where Cody Rhodes talking about him and The Rock used to hang out when they were kids, but they like 13, 14 years apart. So like we dealing with elite liars here, which is hilarious. But like, man, that boy Triple H, he can sell salt to a slug, can't he? Because I was hyped for Raw at the Mania after he gave his little speech. So I expect that to take place tonight as well, because they got my man on the front lines just taking all the bullets. He's taking all the live heat. But But then when I think about it, because Raw after Mania was notoriously bad. I've been sweating all week just thinking about what we're going to see on Friday night when this is supposed to be the Roman show. You know, you're supposed to have all these things for the Bloodline storyline play out, but it can't be that bad, this partnership. If it's business as usual, everything is still operating the same until at least several months from now. And it made me harken back to when like I first started getting into this field, which was pre-pandemic. In the pandemic, what were the two only things that were operative in the sports world? WWE and UFC.
Sure.
From that standpoint alone, we got entertainment, we got live sports, live fights throughout that. The only thing that was really keeping us afloat during those days was WWE, UFC, Versus, and the Michael Jordan documentary, Last Dance. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Those four things. So the partnership can't be that bad from a business perspective. I think what we need to wait to shake down the trees to see like how much Vince is going to be operative in what we view on TV. Money aside, everybody's going to get paid. Hopefully nobody gets cut because everybody's going to have, there's enough money to keep everybody fed at this point. Even the guys we don't see on TV that are in catering. It's just how much control per se, not counting anybody's pockets. Triple H working hard for the extra $5 million right now, but how much control does Trips actually remain in charge of? And I think that's the only thing that has us worried now. And we won't truly know until after the summer.
Yeah, let me add to that and say, you know, this is one of the reasons why I don't think we should take ourselves all the way down the rabbit hole yet. Because there are a couple of things at work. One is again, based on the fact that Vince is going to have a boss for the first time in his life, that's a whole new thing. Not only will he have a boss for the first time in his life, but he will now be executive chairman of the parent company that is in charge of UFC and WWE, which means he's going to have to know some things about UFC, probably far more than he knows right now. It would not be a wise move for Vince McMahon to be involved in creative. Take away what Triple H has done with creative. Just from a business perspective, when you get think about this, when you get a promotion, how much time do you have to go back and do your old job? Like real talk. You don't have a lot of time, particularly if you are given new responsibilities that are already above your current pay grade. So tonight is going to be telling in terms of that, but just think about it. I really think we saw what we saw Monday night because Vince was already in town and he couldn't resist. But Vince is not willing to and here's my further proof of this. Look at NXT. NXT went completely unchanged. And if Vince were in full control of all things creative, he would have gone down and messed with NXT because he could have. He didn't. I think this was just, he was in proximity. Oh, no? Oh, no? There was a thing called 2.0. Remember that?
No, I'm saying that we don't, about him not having his hands on NXT because the double turn at the end, I mean, Braun Breaker heel turn, when in theory, Melo and Trick cheated to win. So I don't know, that stuff on Tuesday night.
I didn't necessarily see that as a Vince move. I saw that as a move to refresh Braun Breaker in the NXT world and to do one of two things, to either delay his call up after what happened last week with his dad. So to put some space between that so that'll be in the back burner long enough. Or it could have been his swan song. Because the other thing that I think people are forgetting is these days, the top show on for WWE is SmackDown, not Raw. So that's why tonight I'm expecting for there to be a surprise or two, a call up or two, because SmackDown will be the spot for people to show up with. That's my expectation. Again, what Triple H has to say. I don't even know if we're as concerned about what he has to say versus what happens after whatever it is that he has to say. That's the actions. But I genuinely don't think Vince McMahon is about to hop on a plane and head to all these towns for Raw and SmackDown because number one, he's got to figure out a name for this new company. They have to do that. And they don't have that, and they're supposed to get that together quick so then that the government can approve this merger, and then it can get over to the stock. Like, they've got some high-level things to do where he can't be concerned with who's sitting in catering and storylines in WWE. So give it time. That's what I'm saying.
Before we get into it, these are like After Buzzers OG in the chat. So shout to JB, shout to Boza, shout to Dylan. Like it's so awesome seeing the crossover, the carryover. I appreciate y'all. Continue with the comments. But what do we have next?
Well, since we are kind of wrapping things up when it comes to WrestleMania, as if WWE didn't have enough news, apparently during WrestleMania, they used an image that caught a lot of fire. So during the promo for Dominic Mysterio, there was a video package that aired, and as Dominic is discussing his time in prison, somehow in this promo, a photo of Auschwitz shows up. Needless to say, that did not go over well at all, as in fact, the Auschwitz Memorial got wind of it. And they actually put out a tweet, which is kind of amazing if you think about this. And their tweet says, quote, "The fact that Auschwitz image was used to promote a WWE match is hard to call an editing mistake. Exploiting the site that became a symbol of enormous human tragedy is shameless and insults the memory of all victims of Auschwitz." WWE made a swift apology. They made a swift edit as well, as this particular part of the promo was used in the pre-show. They edited it so it was not in the main show. I'm going to say something, God, I pray this is not controversial, but here's what I'm going to say. I'm understanding that not every generation is understanding of what is offensive to certain people groups. That sounds really crazy, but it's serious, you know? And so it's very easy for somebody who could be an intern, a 20-something, to Google. Here's the assignment. The assignment is find prison images or images that look like prison. Okay, they go to Google and start looking up stuff, and they grab something, not doing the research to realize what that image means. So I am not trying to excuse anything by any stretch of the imagination. I am saying that I believe it was a genuine mistake, because WWE over time has proven that they're not trying to get into any of those kinds of issues, especially now. So they would not, and think about it, they would not intentionally use an image like that to promote a Latino wrestler of all things. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So all I'm saying is, WWE did the right thing by apologizing, by pulling it down swiftly. But I'm not 100% sure that whoever did it, and I don't know who did it, but just based on experiences that I've had with people, there are people out here, and certain stories aren't being retold. If we're like honest, they're not being retold. And I don't want to go here, but there are states that right now are trying to take certain aspects of history out of curriculums so that kids don't ever hear about some of this stuff. So there is the possibility that the image was taken very innocently, quickly, without there being any research done. I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm saying I don't think it was malicious. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm glad they swiftly apologized, swiftly removed it. I just hope it doesn't linger. I hope it was an honest mistake. And then if you got to reprimand the person who did it, I hope it was in just a genuine mistake. I hope it doesn't linger, because I don't want to take away from such a good presentation for Dom. I think that was the best presentation you can probably have for him on the biggest stage. And it made the prison Dom thing feel real. But then we're talking about this. Again, like piggybacking off what you said, I never want to feel like I'm in a position to tell somebody how they should feel about something. Sure. I think empathy is missing across this country in a big way. So I empathize with everything that's going on. I just, like you said, I hope it was a genuine mistake that people can all move past, apologies made, and that they vet everything going forward so it doesn't happen again.
Right. It reminds me a couple of years ago when they went to make the name change for Walter and they changed his name to Gunther. They actually went and trademarked and were getting ready to call him Gunther Stark. And before that came out, somebody finally did some research and went, oops, probably not the name we should grab because of what it's connected to. So I just think that the company is so big. Some of the people that may be working just may have no clue about some of this stuff, which is where research becomes important before you release it.
And there's so many teams involved in what we saw as far as front facing, as far as WrestleMania, the turnover, the fact that they pump out something every single week.
Right.
And then to put on something so grand, I'm guaranteed, I don't know about you, Cedric, but I was tired. And I only went to like 3-4 days of events. So, and I can only imagine the people back there. And again, like you were saying, Mr. Professor, that it's kind of like one of those things where it shouldn't have happened, but given the nature of the business, and it wasn't, I think Jay-Z had mentioned it. There was like if there was I was gonna say Walter. Now you got me saying this thing. If there was in a different package, then you'd be like, this is kind of. But it didn't make sense. There was no benefit. There was no benefit either way, negative or positive, by putting it there. So, that's the good thing about being in a society where we have social media and everybody can speak their mind, and some people have the time to be sitting in their basements and noticing an aspect and calling out companies. And the company is big enough where they can swiftly take it down. So hopefully, that's the end of it. And definitely empathy, because I'm sure there was something where they took something from, our culture, we'd be like, for sure.
Absolutely.
Hence the sensitive nature of how we approach it, because we've been on the receiving end of that, so it's not trying to knock anybody, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna bring that up. All right, next story.
Let's move on to something completely different, because Wednesday night we were told there was going to be a big announcement on AEW, and I think we have all kind of conditioned ourselves at this point to question what exactly a big announcement is, right? However, this one actually, when I heard it, I felt some kind of way. I'll tell you how I felt in a second. But the announcement is that AEW is getting ready to do their first stadium show. Oh, and it's not just a stadium show. It's an international stadium show. So they're getting ready to do All In, not to be confused with All Out. It's going to happen August the 27th. It's going to be live at Wembley Stadium in London. The same Wembley Stadium about 30 years ago that did SummerSlam and did 80,000 people. So immediately I got nervous, because I'm just like, that's a lot of people. Wembley holds 90,000. You figure there's going to be obviously production rooms, stage, et cetera, et cetera. Still a lot of people, more people than AEW has ever housed. Here's the however in comma. AEW programming, and it's been confirmed in a few places, in London and in the UK specifically, actually is more popular these days than WWE programming. And what we've seen from day one pre-sale in terms of folks being able to sign up for pre-sale, they already have 25,000 people who have signed up in day one to pre-register with a code. Tickets don't go on sale until May the 2nd. So if that is an indicator, then it's possible that we could really see a significant moment in AEW if they're able to fill up this massive, this not even arena, it's a stadium. They can fill this up. This is going to be special. So I got nervous, but 25,000 to start on a pre-sale that's a month away. That's a really, really good number. So we'll be excited to see what happens. You can imagine this card is going to be loaded, but this is a massive, massive move from AEW. And if they are able to pull this off in a massive way, number one, the visual is going to be incredible. But number two, they're going to have some incredible momentum. If they can get 65, 70,000 people in there, that's nuts.
Massive move, and the ultimate shoot your shot move for Tony. The announcement on the heels itself, just doing international show, is a big accomplishment. It'll be coming off the heels of Money in the Bank, which I believe is in the UK as well. I believe
In
in
July,
June.
that's right.
No,
July
July.
1st.
So it's, for lack of better words, it is a ballsy move, and the fact that they got 25K right now is impressive, to say the least, on pre-sale. But the trepidation for me comes from, like, and I agree with TK, like, hey, we have a major announcement thing is getting kind of old and tired. I feel like it happens like at least 4 times in a quarter. But 25K signups right now, I'm thinking the over under is around 50. Ain't no way they get to 90. If they get to 50, I'll be like, congratulations. But I don't think they get much over 50K.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, with you saying that AEW is more popular overseas, I can kind of see that because it's a little bit more strong style.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. Dylan's saying he'd take 50. But if you
take the under,
if you take how the stages are set up, or stadiums are set up, they have to block out like a quarter of it for backstage stuff, and the audience can't see from the back of it anyway.
Right.
So I mean, you can make it look full. I don't know. We'll.
And so our knowledge right now is this is a all just AEW pay-per-view. It's not in joint with New Japan or anything like that.
They have not announced Forbidden Door or anything like that. Now, that's not to say that they won't pull some of those. I'm pretty sure
they're
going to pull. They have to pull some New Japan stars. They have to pull some strong British stars. I think it's a thing. This is really. I won't get on my soapbox yet. I'll just say I think this is going. I think it's going to be a massive test for AEW. And you're right, Cedric, to do this on the heels of Money in the Bank, which they're going to have a live SmackDown the night before as well. It's going to really test, I think, what that market is going to do. At the same time, British wrestling, they love their wrestling. They are an amazing group of people in terms of great fans, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the other thing we don't know: what the price point is going to be, what people are going to be willing to do. I heard some people complaining about the price point for Money in the Bank for WWE, and I don't know if that was just for the on-location package or the individual tickets. So this is going to be interesting. I want them to succeed because that's a massive L to get in a space like that and do 25,000. Right. So I really do want them to succeed. Now, again, production piece is going to be big. So I don't look for them to do 90 because I don't think 90 will be available. If WWE did 80 back when they did SummerSlam in 92, the question will be, what kind of production staging will AEW do? They've never done a massive show like this before.
My God, that's 92. Like, think about how how old, like 5? Think about how media was consumed back then. Yes. Primarily the television or pay-per-view, and like they feel. Come on, man.
Yeah. So this is a different. So I'm intrigued. I'm very, very intrigued. This to me is as big of a test as when, the Indies were indeed doing All In, the original All In a few years ago. So it's interesting.
They have to have like something. They got to really call in big guns as far as like nostalgia names. I know everybody's throwing the Goldberg is a free agent thing out there. They can land him. If you can get Mercedes to do a match on your programming as a one-off, you got to really call in big guns. I'm saying it's to clear 50. I don't even think 70 is attainable. Just to clear 50.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on what the audience is looking for, because you had a lot of people who, like, if you take this weekend, for example, who couldn't afford WrestleMania tickets. But, when I went to Impact, did this pretty much standing room only. ROH as well. A lot of the indie shows were like packed. So if it's coming off the heels of Money in the Bank and you can't afford that, but you still want to take in wrestling, that might be the alternative. Like, okay, I can now take my family of 4 versus like only one person can go. So it might work out as far as pricing.
Yeah.
And if they do bring the big names, every time somebody says TK, I always think myself first. So it
As
goes
you
like,
should.
on the soccer, I was
You
like,
should
no,
say AR.
I don't own a soccer team, but I think he does. I think his family does own a
does.
soccer team as well. So I mean, we'll see what happens with that. It's gonna be an interesting summer.
Yeah, it is a very interesting summer.
What do we have next?
Well, go ahead. Said, please.
I was going to say, since I'm wearing merch, we might as well get this out of the way. To nobody's surprise, Cody Rhodes was the highest seller in merchandise this week for WrestleMania week. And if you were in the Superstore, you probably saw all the different iterations of Cody Rhodes merchandise. I'm not talking about the weight belts, but I'm talking about the T-shirts, the Finish the Story. And the reason I love this so much is because we got the outcome that we got. I told my friend throughout WrestleMania, as everybody was leaving the stadium mad, I was like, there's more profit in people's pain. Because now you're going to tune in every single week to see if you can see if Cody will finish the story, he'll lose. So he topped the merchandise sales for WrestleMania this week. A lot of Cody Rhodes merchandise throughout the Superstore. On a larger scale, this was actually a joy to me as an avid merch purchaser. All the WrestleMania themed merchandise was actually even more profitable. So they had a lot of different Dodger theme WrestleMania gear, Lakers Clipper theme WrestleMania gear, kind of attributing to the California vibe. I haven't bought a tank top. I think that was very good. And I think it's even better that merchandise actually sold, because all the WrestleManias I've been to, a lot of those things are still on the rack. So people actually took heed of those items. So good graphics, good merch. However you feel about the Fanatic store, I'm not a big fan of Fanatic style merchandise, but it did its job last week.
Well, we're going to retract that statement. WWT does not say we're friends with Fanatics. Let's just put it out there. I'll tell you why later. But we're friends. We love Fanatics.
Yes, we love Fanatics.
We'll track that. But since then, all your negativity to me. My fault.
Yeah, I did see a lot of the baseball jerseys. So yeah, it was the merch was definitely, because you can kind of tell the if you could have, like, I'm sure that's out there, some college students tested it, the level of fandom. Like, you could tell the super fan, because like they had everything, like I think there was one guy, he had like 6 belts, taking it in front of sofa, and I'm just like, where are you? Did you buy a seat for the belts? Like, where are these belts? Like, where are they going? And then you have, like, you gradually get, and then you have the people who are like the moms who are bringing their kids, like they watch it because of the kids, but they're all wearing matching jerseys. Like, it was really nice to see. So JD saying, oh, I mean, oh, JD.
What he said? What he said? Matter of fact, is there a way to change my name on here right now to that?
That's funny. Fanatic.
You can. With that being said, we haven't actually done this game in a while. Let me find the graphic.
Go.
I didn't because I was too busy talking to. Here we go.
Lose or draw.
So now,
Win.
Said, do you think, and I think you kind of mentioned it, Cedric, do you think Cody won with everything, or do you think it's a draw, or do you think it's a loss at this point? Because we haven't seen where his story is leading to. So at this very moment, do you think it's like, okay, it's, you know, the sales are up, so people are feeling
the entire storyline aspect, everything?
We're at this point, not future, where we are right now.
No. I'm saying today, I left thinking everything was a win. I think about where Cody was at in AEW and the matches he had, how he was never able to chase the big belt from losing that match. So he was very humble there. Off the heels of where he left his position in WWE as a mid-carder, he just wrestled the biggest match of his career in the most profitable WrestleMania ever. He is more over now after WrestleMania than he was going in. Evidenced by the merchandise sales, evidenced by the pop he got on Raw after Mania. It's only going to get bigger and better for Cody. And I think that's what people are missing, is that the finish the story thing wasn't meant to culminate then. It was meant to ride this wave that is Cody Rhodes and build on the resiliency story, just like his father. Now he's going to go through the hard times angle. He's going to do that. And he's going to look like an even bigger megastar when he's actually the guy. And I think if you saw the Heyman article, the Heyman quote that there will be nowhere to go from, that's 100% right. As wrestling fans, we're fickle. We want to see change so fast, but once we get it, we don't want it. We don't want it once we get it. So if Cody Rhodes is champion today, and it's like, all right, who's he going to match up with? And then we're going to see that he's a champion for several months or whatever. It'd be very boring. But if we see him, my man, get beat up every single week, and it's like, oh, damn, well, he was this close. We're going to yearn for that every single time until he actually gets it. More people are going to tune in. It's just like Floyd Mayweather. We tune in to see him lose, even though it's not going to happen. Same thing with Roman. And I love that for Roman, that we actually have a mega villain, and now Cody is getting to chase him in that regard. Because we actually believe Cody can do it. That's the difference between everybody else. We believe Cody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Professor?
I totally agree with Cedric. This is a win for everything he said. And I think this is one of those moments, and this is why we are necessary, because we have to provide historical context for people to be able to understand, because people end up becoming prisoners of the moment. The irony, and we'll get to this a little bit. Oh, no, I'll save that for later. But this same thing happened about 4 years ago, where we actually got what we wanted. And in a couple of months' time, we were tired. We were done. We were complaining. We were like, oh, that was nice. And the famous line, the chase was better, than the rain. And I say this, fans, be not fickle, okay? There's a reason why Rocky had 6 movies, and then Creed has had 3 to continue the Rocky thing, because we like to see an underdog. Mm-hmm. Most of you guys probably never watched Rocky 2, where you thought he was going to win, and he ends the film losing. He lost. Okay, that's what happened. But it was the setup for Rocky 3, and we all went and we bought it and we watched it and all those types of things. I think we have to understand a lot, and I think Cedric nailed it. Look at where Cody was when he left AEW. They were booing Cody, and he hadn't done anything to be booed. He was giving great promos. He was representing the company well. He was kind of the steady Eddie in that company. He came to WWE, and the rocket ship was put on him. They gave him the same music. They gave him the same entry, and he did it. I'm just going to tell you, and here's the thing. Don't be so swayed by the crowd, okay? Everybody talks about, we want long-term storytelling. You're living it now. So don't ask for something and then turn around and throw away from it. I hearken you to go back on the WWE network. Check out somebody named Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Go check out his wars with Ric Flair. You'll discover he didn't win the world title on his first go-around. You'll discover a whole lot of things happened to Dusty before he became the world champion. And then he'd become the world champion, and he'd lose it really quickly, because it was more profitable for him to chase the title than to be the champion. Cody's day is going to come. But these days reminds me that this generation wouldn't have lived real well with Ric Flair as the world champion. We wouldn't have lived real well with that, because Ric Flair as the world champion is exactly what you're seeing right now with Roman Reigns. It's exactly what you're seeing, except, Roman doesn't have, $10,000 suits on, and he's not talking about going to Space Mountain. But this is the same thing. We are seeing the reincarnation of Ric Flair versus Dusty Rhodes. And here's the difference. Dusty Rhodes never got to main event WrestleMania. Dusty Rhodes didn't get to perform in front of 80,000 people. Dusty Rhodes didn't get that privilege, but his son is. And his son comes out bigger and better. I'm telling you, this was a massive win for Cody right now. Right now. You know why? Because all the fans are mad that Cody lost. Mm-hmm. That should tell. Nobody turned on Cody. Nobody said, all right, I'm not putting my stuff behind Cody anymore. No, everybody backed him. And when he screamed rematch Monday night, the place went up. I'm telling you, he is incredible right now, and he's only going to get hotter because now he's got to go through Brock Lesnar.
Ooh, well, I'll just co-sign on what both of y'all said. With that being said, let's get into this is what happens when you talk too much before the show.
It's wrestling facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, time for those vintage wrestling facts. A whole lot happened on this particular day in history. Let's go all the way back to 1986. First time and last time this particular thing happened. It was WrestleMania 2. Now, obviously, it's not the first time or the last time for WrestleMania 2 at this point, but it was the last time that WrestleMania 2 was so gutsy, where WrestleMania was held in 3 different locations simultaneously. Talk about thinking big. So Vince McMahon decided we're going to have WrestleMania in New York, in Chicago, and in LA. And so what they did was they had an hour in one city, and then they'd bring down the screens, and the people in the building would end up watching the other 2 hours on a big screen. Then they moved over to Chicago and did the second hour, and then they did the last hour in LA. It was crazy. And to think that they pulled this off in 1986 without the internet is incredible. It's incredible that they did it. So some of the results, of course, we saw Andre the Giant win a big battle royal that had a slew of NFL stars in it. Mr. T showed up at WrestleMania again. He ends up winning a boxing match against Roddy Piper by disqualification. Imagine that. Then, of course, the British Bulldogs end up winning the tag team titles. And then, of course, it's headlined by Hulk Hogan defeating King Kong Bundy in a steel cage to retain the WWE Championship. We moved to 1997. We're on an episode of Monday Nitro. Ultimo Dragon wins the World Television Championship after pinning Prince Ayukea. If you remember any of those names, blessings be unto your whole life. All right, we're going to move forward to 2013. As in 2013, New Japan had a show in Tokyo called Invasion Attack. Now, this is 2013, not 2023, but it seems like it's all the same because the main event saw Kazuchika Okada win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship by defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi. And yes, these two just fought at Battle in the Valley 2 months ago. It really did happen. Same day in 2013 was WrestleMania 29, happened at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 80,000 fans participated. A couple of major things happened on this one. This is where we saw, believe it or not, Brock Lesnar actually lose a match at WrestleMania. He lost to Triple H, where Triple H's career was on the line. The Undertaker went 21-0, the last match of his streak before losing the streak, and he would win against CM Punk, which would be CM Punk's last WrestleMania. And it was the site of Cena Rock 2, where John Cena would pin The Rock to become the WWE champion. Then on this day in 2014, it was a Raw after Mania that a lot of people remember for a few reasons. One of those reasons is that we saw the debut of Paige. Paige shows up. She was the NXT Women's Champion at the time, shows up on television to take on AJ Lee and wins the Divas Championship in less than 90 seconds, making her the youngest female champion in WWE history. We also remember that night because it was the final appearance of the Ultimate Warrior. He had his last words to say before literally passing away the next day. Fun fact, I was actually in the crowd for that, in the front row. If you ever go back and watch that, you'll see me right behind the commentators. And interestingly enough, I leaned over to my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and I said to her, Warrior doesn't look right. Because he came in that ring and he was so winded. And I was like, something's not right. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Never had any idea of what would happen the next day. But that all happened at that Mania. Now that's 9 years ago today. Fast forward to 2018. Supercard of Honor, in case you haven't figured out, has always been a thing for the last few years connected to WrestleMania. This Supercard of Honor was held in New Orleans, and 2 titles changed hands. Sumi Sakai became the Ring of Honor women's world champion by defeating Kelly Klein. And then Silas Young defeats Kenny King to become the new world television champion. On the same day, you had NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and these takeovers were just so special. A couple of major things happened here. It was the birthing of the North American Championship, as Adam Cole would defeat EC3, Killian Dane, Ricochet, the Velveteen Dream, and Lars Sullivan to become the North American champion. A couple of those names did not age all that well. Shayna Baszler became the new NXT Women's Champion, defeating Ember Moon. And then the third title to change hands that night was the NXT Championship, as Aleister Black defeated Andrade Cien Almas. Last but not least, we'll go to WrestleMania 35, which happened on this day in 2019, once again at MetLife Stadium. East Rutherford, New Jersey, ironically, had 2,000 more fans than the previous WrestleMania held at that same building back in 2013. We remember this WrestleMania for two primary things. Of course, there was the first ever women's main event in WrestleMania history that saw Becky Lynch defeat Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair to win both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. And that was also the night that we had the culmination of Kofi Mania. Kofi Kingston defeated Daniel Bryan to become the world champion. What a night that was. And hearkening back to earlier in our conversation, as much as we loved that moment, everybody didn't ride with Kofi for that title reign. But it was a moment that we will never, ever forget. That was all WrestleMania 35. Ironically, the final WrestleMania before the pandemic. Who knew? And that's a look at this day in Vintage Wrestling Facts.
Vintage Wrestling Facts. Yeah.
And Santana, we are not getting rid of our graphics, not until we get a new budget. That is, so it is what it is. So we have time for one more story. Dealer's choice. Anything you want to talk about?
Let's see. By the way, just piggybacking off that segment, that the first East Rutherford 2013, that was the coldest WrestleMania I've ever been to. It was frigid in that building. I can't believe I sat there that long, just in pain. Couldn't even enjoy the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's
honestly what makes me nervous about Philly.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Because it's outside.
Ooh.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm about to reconsider that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk. Since it's here, let's talk Balor, because I'm actually very impressed. We talked about this on Monday, how he got stitched up, whatnot, but apparently he'd been working through another injury heading into Mania. He had a grade 2 calf tear that he just recently put on his Instagram that he went through. The original recovery time for something like that is 6 to 8 weeks. He did it in shorter time, I guess, just ramped up the recovery with some of the team. But kudos to Finn, man. Not only just completing that match, but obviously in pain before that. Open skull, bleeding on live television, the biggest show of the year, coming in with a fractured calf. I can only imagine what that feels like for somebody who does a lot of aerial assault in their work. Finn deserves a raise. And I know there's been this little thing with Finn ever since he was the inaugural Universal Champion. And that's a Vince thing. I think that's one of the things we're scared about now is Vince kind of putting certain guys in the back burner. Finn has kind of gotten his momentum with his Judgment Day thing. He's been up and down ever since. The second NXT run was great. Finn's the type of guy that the company really needs to push forward because he's showing that he's willing to not only do the work, but he'll put his body on the line to perform and to really make people feel that character. I'm just awestruck. Not only just the cut, just that going to the big show of the year, that he's just able to complete the match and perform. Just amazing stuff.
Totally agree. Uh-oh. We can't hear you, TK.
I think you might be muted.
Yeah.
I said, now I feel guilty for staying in bed because I felt sick this morning. I'm just like, oh.
I mean, the man had the gash in his head was just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And then working that hurt is crazy. It's crazy.
It is. I have, because like I said, I didn't prepare like I should have. There's a couple videos we need to one from Mr. Professor himself. This is definitely, you guys should check out social media, the TikToks, but check this word.
Things that has happened in the world of pro wrestling in the last 5 years is a thing called representation. And we really saw it live out in a big way WrestleMania weekend. Whether it was Bianca Belair retaining the Raw Women's Championship or her using her platform to share with the divas of Compton in her opening, being unapologetically black in pro wrestling is a thing, and a thing for a lot of us to be proud of. Think about this. The Street Profits won their massive match. Then in NXT, Carmelo Hayes is him. Wes Lee is the North American champion. We're living in an amazing time right now, and here's what I really love. I love that people are getting opportunities not solely because they're black or because of the space they represent, but because they are amazing. And that is incredible. And while I'm here, I want to make sure I shout out what's happening in black wrestling media as well. We've got a lot of amazing things that are happening, a lot of representation that's happening there. And while I'm here, let me say this. Can we always strive for excellence? Can we not be the people that are known for using words that aren't necessary and aren't professional, but instead, let's be the ones. Let's represent well so that those who are coming behind us can see that all of this is possible, not just because we're black, but because we are excellent.
All right. And the church said, amen. With that being said, definitely check out all our commercials, all of our shows, and we're adding some more with hopefully a huge announcement coming up in 2 weeks of a returning show. But check this out. Hey peeps, TK Trinidad here, boss lady of Women's Wrestling Talk. And I want to say thank you so much for watching, because you've got millions of options. Plus, you don't have to worry about sharing your password to check us out. But while you're here, hopefully you know we have so many more shows to watch, like Turnbuckle Glam, Raw Post Show, WoW Post Show, AEW Dynamite Post Show, Women's Wrestling Army Post Show, NXT Post Show, Impact Wrestling Post Show, AEW Rampage and SmackDown Live Post Show, On the Scroll, ROH Post Show, WWT Live, plus all of our interviews with the hottest women's wrestlers in the game. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on all social media platforms at www.talkpod, and make sure to spread the word. That means send this to the group chat. Yes, even the person with the green bubble. Thanks again so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now. All right. Yeah, we have a couple shows this weekend. All Access, we're gonna have an after show for that. We have a SmackDown show. Our Turnbuckle Glam show is gonna be this. Our Turnbuckle Glam show is gonna be on Sunday as well. And then on top of those shows, might be adding 3 more shows. So yeah, there's a lot going on. With that being said, Cedric, who really loves Fanatics, by the way, where can everybody find you?
Hey, no lie, I was going to close the show with that. So thank you for teeing that up. Fanatics, I love your site. I love everything about it. You can find me on Instagram at Said Is The Answer, and on Twitter at Said Says. That's CEDD_SAYS. Go check out my articles. Dropped a couple pieces this week for Daily DDT, talking about Wale Mania and about 3 things that the company should do post WrestleMania season.
And Mr. Professor, where can everybody find you?
You can check me out at Bonnerfied on all of the platforms. You can check out my commentary work with Southern Honor Wrestling. We've got a big show coming next Friday, so be on the lookout for that. Battle Slam, we've got our 1-year anniversary coming on the 23rd, so that'll be a fun show, and you can check out my commentary there on Fight TV. And you can check out my work with the Nightmare Factory on their YouTube page as well. And you can check out merch at prowrestlingtees.com/Bonnerfied.
I honestly, Bosa, and you probably can answer it on Twitter, or if you have time, you can tell. I don't know if you have a calendar of all the WWT shows, because every time I check in on the shows, I see you in there. I thank you for your support.
Awesome.
But I don't know if you have like a calendar. It's like, all right, cool. Or you just, I don't know how you do it, but appreciate it. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Make sure you check out all things WWT. You can check out our social media, WW Talk Pod, www.talkpod.com. All the things, beautiful gowns. This ends our WWT Live Friday edition. Thank you guys so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.